Hurricane Friday became the deadliest day in modern Japan. But it was only the beginning.
A tsunami that sent a giant wall of water racing towards the coast.
A sudden explosion occurred.
It is a fact in this part of Japan that at this moment in time, there are not enough living to take care of the dead.
The coast of Sanriku, Japan, shaking buildings and briefly alarming residents. It was powerful, but not unusual for a country accustomed to tremors to return to normal.
The terrifying moment when it all began. A super earthquake and nowhere to hide.
The most terrifying part was that this was only the beginning. Since Kurihara City, Miyagi Prefecture, was closest to the epicenter, it experienced the strongest shaking, a 7 intensity on the JMA scale. However, very strong tremors were also felt, also witnessed the Earth's wrath as high rises continued to sway for minutes. But that's not all. Kyoto and Osaka, which are hundreds of miles away in western Japan, also reported noticeable tremors. Instruments detected it across the entire globe. The tremors were so strong that they caused the Earth to wobble about 7 inches on its axis. For 6 endless minutes, the Earth did not stop. During this time, Japan realized that no technology could predict and stop what nature had awakened.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god.
Oh my god. This is weird. I've never experienced the ground shaking like this.
Mother and child survived, but a significant portion of older structures suffered various types of damage, with oil refineries catching fire under the strong shaking. The Cosmo oil refinery suffered a worse fate as it burned uncontrollably for days, turning the skyline black with smoke and ash. The most destruction was observed near the epicenter, as it bore the full force of the 9-magnitude earthquake. Almost 200 people lost their lives to the earthquake itself, and the cost of destruction was staggering. Heights were 20 feet, but a GPS buoy off of Iwate's coast soon detected a terrifying truth. The sea level was rising far faster and far higher than anyone had imagined. This wasn't a wave, it was a wall, and it was going to slam into Japan's coastline.
Live coverage of a river in Miyagi Prefecture. Tsunami obviously hitting, water going upwards towards the river.
The JMA quickly issued a second tsunami warning, upgrading the tsunami heights to over 33 feet for Miyagi and 20 feet for Iwate and Fukushima. At 3:21 p.m., a 26-foot high wave slammed into Miyako in Iwate Prefecture, the closest city to the earthquake's epicenter. Miyako's position along the Sanriku coast, with its deep V-shaped bays, funneled and amplified the tsunami's power, causing it to hit earlier and far more violently than anywhere else. But here's the remarkable part. The Sanriku district had already faced the tsunami's destructive forces before, in 1933 and 1960. And learning from those bitter experiences, protective seawalls were built around the coastal area to protect it from future disasters. It seemed like everything should have been safe, right? But the waves were so high that they crashed down on Sanriku with incredible force that day.
A tsunami that sent a giant wall of water racing towards the coast, tossing cars, boats, and buildings like fragile toys.
One man heard the sirens and stepped outside, camera in hand, to capture the approaching waves. Nothing could prepare him for what he was about to witness. The ocean was moving faster than anyone imagined, swallowing the neighborhood in seconds. He quickly moved towards higher ground, but soon realized that he wasn't high enough. The water kept rising. The waves turned up, tearing houses from their foundations. He survived the tsunami, but a ticking bomb, just 100 miles away, was about to change his country's fate forever. 3:22 p.m. One coastal region after another was struck by massive waves that swept from Aomori Prefecture to Chiba Prefecture. Each town in the tsunami's path suffered extensive destruction as buildings, ports, and homes were torn apart by the force of water. The seawalls built to protect Japan's coastal cities proved no match for the tsunami's sheer weight and power. In Rikuzen Takata, waves rose high as a 3-story building. At Kuborinai Taro, the water reached 124 feet, and at Amoe Adayoshi in Miyako City, it climbed to nearly 131 feet, wiping out everything in its path. This was the highest tsunami wave ever recorded in Japan, which means that many residents had no place to run or hide.
These images from Japanese TV show the terrible power of the water, sweeping away whole shipping containers and crushing buildings like tin cans.
3:25 p.m., surging water swept through coastal towns, leaving behind vast stretches of wreckage. Fuji and the southern part of Ofunato were among the hardest hit, with entire neighborhoods reduced to rubble. Across a 420-mile stretch of Japan's eastern coast, from Erimo in Hokkaido to Owarai in Ibaraki, the devastation was catastrophic, much of it occurring within the first hour after the earthquake struck. About 200 people, teachers, children, and parents were sheltering from the earthquake inside the Noru school building.
The teacher would just go check the classroom to make sure everyone's okay and start getting everyone to the gym.
They believed the worst was over, unaware that the ocean was preparing a new, merciless strike.
Some guy with a helmet on, he ran in, he was like, tsunami's coming. And then the principal was like, okay, everyone run back to the school. He said he saw a wall of water coming, so he's like, everyone going back inside.
The tsunami tore through the school like a raging beast, smashing walls, sweeping away everything and everyone in its path. Risking his life, David Shum tried to save as many as he could, pulling children and adults from the chaos of water and debris.
I saw like one of my kids, he was like struggling, so I grabbed him, I grabbed his shirt, and I was able to like pull him over to the side, and he was able to grab onto the railing. I helped heave him over, and I saw like a big desk with like 4 or 5 of my kids like hanging onto it, and they were like saying, they were shouting, help me, help us. And finally I was able to like grab a hold of the desk and pull it closer to me, and then I was able to grab them one by one, and we were able to get them over.
We find the toys, books, the shoes of the children piled inside with care and respect. 108 people were in sea, 74 in the sky.
Few survived. True ordeal was over. 30 minutes after the major waves had struck the towns, the floodwaters began to recede. The receding water moved with almost the same force as it had when it came in, dragging debris, vehicles, and collapsed buildings back into the ocean. Many people who had clung to debris or floated on rooftops during the flooding were mercilessly swept away with the powerful current. Others who had fled to higher ground helplessly watched their broken houses being pulled away into the sea. It was in this moment that people realized the true extent of the devastation. Entire stretches of low-lying land remained submerged, making rescue operations nearly impossible. By the end of the day, more than 18,000 people had lost their lives, out of which several thousand bodies of victims were never recovered. The aftermath was unbearable to witness. Entire towns had vanished, replaced by silence and debris. 2 sons combed through the wreckage for their family, only to find their mother inside her car, lifeless, beside their niece and nephew.
There is no place to put this many bodies. The morgues are completely full. And frankly, there aren't enough people to move them. It is a fact in this part of Japan that at this moment in time, there are not enough living to take care of the dead.
The devastating tsunami did not stop at Japan's shores. It burst from the epicenter, racing across the Pacific Ocean at nearly 500 miles an hour. Within hours, 12-foot waves struck Hawaii and the Aleutian Islands of Alaska, before reaching California and Oregon. In Crescent City, the waves destroyed the harbor. Docks were torn apart, boats smashed, and damage reached $25 to $30 million. In Santa Cruz, dozens of boats sank, piers were shattered, and losses exceeded $17 million. After 18 hours, the tsunami even reached Antarctica. A foot-high wave broke off part of the Salzburger ice shelf. But while everyone was trying to comprehend the scale of the catastrophe, a more deadly crisis was unfolding at the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant. The site had silently turned into a ticking time bomb waiting to explode. The power plant is located in Okuma and Futaba towns, Fukushima Prefecture, on Japan's east coast. When the earthquake struck at 2:46 p.m., the plant lost its main power supply when transmission lines went down, so the reactor switched to emergency diesel generators to keep the cooling systems running and prevent overheating. Inside the plant, Atsufumi Yoshizawa, an engineer responsible for reactors 5 and 6, had no idea that what seemed under control in just 55 minutes would turn into a full-scale catastrophe. A 49-foot-high tsunami wave struck the Fukushima coast, towering over the plant's 19-foot seawall and overwhelming everything in its path. The wave flooded the plant, destroying diesel generators and electrical systems in the basements. Within seconds, the facility was plunged into darkness. Cooling stopped, and the temperature in the reactors began to rise rapidly. The emergency signals coming to Yoshizawa were getting worse and worse. At that moment, he realized that the situation was getting out of control. The station was on the verge of disaster. The Japanese government quickly ordered the first evacuation within a 1.9-mile radius of the power plant. Residents in the 2 to 6 mile zone were told to stay indoors. But as radiation levels spiked, the evacuation zone was expanded to a 6-mile radius. 7:30 p.m. Despite desperate attempts by engineers to reduce the pressure, the reactor continued to heat up rapidly. By morning, the temperature had reached critical levels, and internal components of the reactor began to melt, bringing disaster closer. 12th of March 2011, 3:36 p.m. A hydrogen explosion ripped through the first unit, tearing off the roof of the reactor building. It was now clear that the Fukushima nuclear power plant was out of control, and the government quickly expanded the evacuation zone to 12 miles. But the nightmare continued. For 2 days, specialists fought desperately to stabilize the plant. But on March 14th at 11:01, the third unit exploded, even more powerful than the first, causing seismic damage and the release of radioactive waste, and a partial meltdown of the core occurred in the second reactor. On March 15, 2011, the second unit began to massively release radioactive gases. Although there was no explosion there, this release gave the highest radiation levels. On the same day, a fire broke out in the spent fuel storage area of the fourth unit, which released additional radionuclides into the atmosphere. It was then that Atsufumi Yoshizawa realized that Fukushima had finally turned into a full-scale nuclear disaster.
The situation's still far from under control. We're hearing radiation levels inside the plant reached as high as 1,000 times the normal level. So what started as a natural disaster has the potential to become an even more threatening man-made disaster.
The power plant had reached its most critical phase, and most people were expecting an evacuation. However, a small group of men, later known as the Fukushima 50, stayed inside the nuclear plant. These men, mostly TEPCO employees, engineers, technicians, and operators, had a terrifyingly clear mission: stabilize the reactors, prevent a full meltdown, and contain the radiation at any cost. The Fukushima 50 were not soldiers or heroes by choice. They were ordinary workers who refused to leave when their country needed them most.
It's frightening. I don't know much about radiation, but I believe that being exposed to large amounts of it meant certain death, so fear was only natural. Counteracting that fear was a sense of duty that all of us felt.
Yoshizawa and his colleagues remained at the plant for an entire month, working under deadly conditions to bring the station under control and restore hope for a safer future. In truth, without the Fukushima 50,